Hey, so I'm Felix. I work here at Twitter, as you can see on my t-shirts, and I want to tell like a very short story of how I got to be here and how this all happened. So I'm from a small town in Austria, Tiesdorf, which is in Lower Austria, and I studied software engineering in HTL, Wiener Neustadt, and then went to the UK to do my software engineering bachelor degree, which is a special program between Austria and the UK where you can finish your bachelor degree in just 1 year. During that time, I basically started 2 companies in Austria, and I built this software called Fastlane, which later got acquired by Twitter, which is why I'm here now. And yeah, so I want to tell a little bit about how this all happened. So I was very interested in robotics. That's how I started with programming. So I took part in 2 robotics world competitions, one in Singapore and one in Hawaii, and I represented Austria there. And you basically get like a certain challenge, and you have to build and program robots to solve this problem. And that's basically how I got started with both hardware and software. And later then, I decided to focus more on the software side, because robots have a lot of like little things like sensors that don't work as precisely or engines that fail, while, as you all know, computers always work and you never have problems with those. So yeah, so I focused on that, and in particular I was really fascinated by the first iPhone. So when the first iPhone was announced, I was really interested in how this works, right? You can just swipe, you can just rotate the device, and it will all just work. And I wanted to build apps for that. In the beginning that wasn't possible with iOS 1. And when Apple introduced the concept of like writing apps, they limited it to Apple developer accounts. And to get an Apple developer account, you have to be 18. And I was 15 back then. So still to this day, many of my old apps are still running under my parents' names because I wasn't legally allowed to create my first Apple account. Similarly, starting my first company, I was doing freelance work, and I had to wait until the age of 18 to actually start my own company. So I did what every 18-year-old does for the 18th birthday. I went to the Wirtschaftskammer and actually registered my first company. Yeah, that's how I spent my afternoon. So that was my first company I started. The second company was a product which is basically a solution for sports clubs. So the idea is to have one core application which you can sell to multiple sport clubs, in this case golf clubs. So they all have like similar requirements. They want to communicate with their members. They want to tell them when's the next tournament, how is the weather like, what holes can be played today. So I built this, and because of the like big ratio of like one core about multiple customers, I had the problem that I need to push new releases for all these apps out. So usually, up until now, all app developers would manually like build the application and upload it to the App Store. And that requires a lot of time. So I was like, well, I'm gonna let my computer do the work for me. So I built a lot of like scripts to automate the whole process. And when I showed this to friends or other mobile developers, they were more fascinated by how I can just push this one button and ship like hundreds of apps at the same time. They were not as much interested in the golf application. That was kind of like, yeah, they didn't care about this. So I thought, is there any way I can like move this out into its own product and share it with other mobile developers? Which is exactly what I did with Fastlane, which is basically why I'm here now. So Fastlane allows mobile app developers, both iOS and Android, to automate the whole release process to the App Store. So when you think about building an application, building is just the first step. You have to do a lot of manual steps, like generating screenshots for all the languages or all the devices. You have to build the application, you have to code sign it, you have to upload all this metadata to Apple and Google. And back when I was 16 and was doing an internship, I was spending 3 full days just uploading screenshots. Not taking them, just uploading. That's how painful it was. So I built this mainly because I needed it for myself. Like, I didn't build it for someone else, so I was the target group, and I'm convinced that's why the product was so successful, because I understood the customer pain points. So I basically combined this with my final year project when I was in the UK, and I share this as an open source solution, which means the license I used was the MIT license, which means everybody can use the software for free. Everybody can look at the source code of how it's being built. Everybody can take Fastlane, the complete source code, modify it, use it, and even sell it to someone else. Like I basically say you can do whatever you want with it. So 2 years ago, when I first launched this, and I told my parents, oh, this software is used 10,000 times a day by all these companies. They were like, cool. So what do you get from that? How much money do you get? I'm like, well, nothing. It's open source. And they didn't really understand why I would do that. And it was the right thing, like seen from the day, because Fastlane became the de facto standard of releasing your application. So that's why I'm invited to speak at conferences. That's why back in the days I was also speaking at, doing consulting work and feature work where I got paid as a specialist in that area. And this is, what does it require to actually start this? So this is all the money I spent on Fastlane, and this was for the domain fastlane.tools, because you have to pay for a domain. And that's one thing I really like thinking about, is that you can actually bootstrap your companies. So many founders think, oh, I need like this big funding round, I need a team, I need to build this product after I got the money. And I think that's many of the times it's a wrong approach. Many people forget that you can actually bootstrap a company and just build something and see how it goes, and then start building a team slowly, instead of getting the funding first. And if you think about this, what do you actually need to start most of the startups nowadays? You just need a laptop with internet. That's all you need. And sometimes caffeine, like coffee or whatever, or club mate, which is a good German drink. So that's all you need nowadays. And this was a picture taken in my dorm room in the UK. And again, I just used my laptop, my headset, and internet. And how much impact can you actually have just by having these tools? So just within the last year, Fastlane has saved 4 million developer hours worldwide. So converting this is 150 bachelor degrees you can do, which I built during one bachelor degree. And since this is an Austrian event, I figured I would convert this to the number of soccer matches you can watch. It's 2.5 million soccer matches people could watch because of this software. And as I'm speaking now, every minute that passes, Fastlane saves 14 developer hours, which I think is a crazy angle. And because of this software, a lot of companies reached out to me. I was supposed to work at Apple. I already signed the contract. And then Fastlane kind of exploded in a good way, a lot of new users. And a few weeks before I was supposed to go to Apple, I sent them an email and said I couldn't come because I want to keep working on Fastlane. And at the same time, Twitter reached out to me, and they were like, Fastlane is awesome. We're building something kind of similar. It's kind of in the same area. Do you want to keep working on Fastlane and work at Twitter? So I'm like, yeah, why not? And basically, that's why I'm here now. Thank you.